Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Joy Life Center Coaching and Consulting. It's me, your life coach, Andrea Jackson. And I just want to welcome you. Today, we're going to be talking about warning signs. We're going to be talking about red flags and green flags. Red flags always represent stop, danger. Green flags are more safety, is more clear passage. And we want to talk about that in reference to how we're recognizing these red and green flags before we just move forward in our behavior. On yesterday, we identified some behaviors that are not quite so healthy for us. We recognize some behaviors that we need to kind of get under our grip, get under our subjection. So one of the things now, we want to be able to identify cues and clues. We want to recognize the atmosphere. We want to have some discernment before we just walk through a place, and red flags are all over the place. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone that you really wanted to be in, a relationship that you really wanted to be in, well, rather the person you really wanted to be with, but you start getting all these red flags? Maybe they was jealous, overbearing. Maybe they were taking your money, using you, but you never paid attention to the red flags. And then 12 years later, you're wondering, why did I stay in this so long? Why I just totally threw my life away for that relationship, because I refuse to recognize the flag. So today we're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, I want to read a quotation to you. It's called Chapters of My Life. It's one of my favorites. Chapter 1 of my life. I walked down the sidewalk and fell into a deep hole. I couldn't get out, and I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't my fault. It took me a long time to get out. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2. I walked down the sidewalk and fell into the same hole again. I couldn't understand why. It wasn't my fault. I really had to struggle to get out. Chapter 3 of my life. I walked down the sidewalk and I fell into the same hole again. This time, I understood why, and it was my fault. This time, it was easier to get out. Chapter 4, I walked down the sidewalk. I saw the same big hole. I walked around it, and I didn't fall into the hole. Chapter 5, and the final chapter, I chose another sidewalk. What does that quotation speak to you? That's a quotation by Portia Nelson, a 20th century American writer. What does that speak to you? Go ahead, unmute your phone and share.
For me, it speaks, first of all, I got to admit that it is my fault.
Okay.
After I admit that it is my fault, that helps me to now be able to adjust, get out, receive that I need to receive. Because at first, if I don't think there's a problem or issue, there's nothing that really could help me. And so after that, and after I get all the information and I realize that it is my fault, and I learn how to now deal with it being my fault, now I know that I could go and I won't fall into that same hole.
Yes.
So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. I love that. We have to admit, we have to be willing to identify problems in our life and admit, in order for us to grow into knowledge, grow into maturity. You know, one of the things I love about this quotation here is that it's different chapters of my life. In different chapters of my life, we're at different maturity levels. We're at different supportive levels. We're at different levels of understanding. So I like how it may have started that I fell into this hole. It wasn't my fault. I don't understand why. I can't get out, and this, that, and the other. It's just nothing. By the second chapter, you know, I still don't understand why. It's not my fault, but at least I fought a little bit. I struggled to get out. I fought a little bit. We learn something in the fight. This is how come God cannot just remove our problems from us totally from the face of the earth, because we won't learn the lesson. We won't build the knowledge. We won't have the knowledge set or the skill set that we have today. Sometimes we have to struggle in order for our brain to understand what to do, what not to do. And then by the third chapter, this time they understood why. As we grow from our experiences in life, we begin to understand why it is my fault. And like you said, have to, at that point, identify, wow, experience has taught me that this behavior is going to continue to get me in the same place. So now I'm thinking, I'm identifying this behavior is a problem. I continue to end up in the hole. But now I understand that I see the behavior and I need to change the behavior. And after a while, I can see the problems. I can see the pitfalls. I can see them before they come. That's wonderful. And now I can make different choices in my life. So thank you for that, Ms. Bianca. We're going to look at some red and green flags. Remember, red flags represents danger, and green flags represents safety. Whereas green flags let me know I'm safe. So there are certain things in life that we see, that we experience, that we have to acknowledge what they are. Is it safe or is it dangerous? So let's look at some red flags, and I'm going to follow up with green flags. Some of the red flags, which again are dangerous flags, is isolation. Is isolation dangerous for you? If it is, then a green flag is spending time with supportive people. Spending time with people that support your walk, your positivity, your increase, not just with any people. We have to make the choices. Remember, once we identify a thing, we have to make the decisions and the choices necessary in order to live well, in order to live better. Another red flag is maybe not taking care of my body. I'm not eating the way I should. I'm not sleeping the way I should. When we recognize those things, it is it's up to us to make a different decision and now go into taking care of my body. I need to take better care of myself. When I acknowledge this red flag, then I need to flip it and get into safety. Sometimes we're living life and we're just feeling feelings as they go. Sometimes we're just living aimlessly. Sometimes we're just moving along and just kind of deal with whatever comes up, comes out sort of thing. But one thing we want to recognize is I need to identify the red flags of my life. What triggers me? What causes me to be in a bad place? My red flags may not be the same as your red flags. Your red flags may not be the same as mine. So we have to acknowledge our flags. We have to acknowledge what's safe and what's dangerous. Maybe to some, you may find yourself with too much free time. If free time gets you in trouble, then guess what? What do I need to do? I need to get a structured schedule. I need to find more structured time. Take some classes, get some support groups, do something different. If you find yourself with too much idle time, maybe schedule a time to go and help, go volunteer, go support, be a support to someone else. Maybe go take a commitment with someone, do part-time work, find a hobby, volunteer at your local park. Find something to give you some structured time. If those things are maybe not physically feasible for you, then there's millions of things that you could find online that are safe to do. Also, and I'm just going to read a few, if you find yourself lying, that's a red flag. That's a red flag for all of us, especially as believers, because lying opens the door to more falsehood. If you tell one lie, you'll tell another. So when we identify this behavior, let's get into safety. Let's get into what we need to do to be honest, because honesty makes me safe. Now, you may say if I'm too honest, maybe I won't be safe, depending on what my truth is and who I tell my truth to. But we always have to be use wisdom. Use wisdom. We have to be wise in who we speak our truth to, because some people maybe not can receive it, or maybe not at that time. So it's important for us to make sure that we live honest lives. It's important that we don't live a lie. You may, if you even told a lie, we're not saying that you will never tell a lie again, but even if you told a lie, we don't want to live lies. Another dangerous thing is negative feelings acted out. Have you ever been in that place where you felt negative, or you felt some kind of way, as people say, and instead of talking about it, you start acting on it? You're acting it out. Sometimes we're acting very aggressively, and sometimes we're being passive aggressive. Sometimes instead of just saying what the situation is, we're rolling our eyes and having an attitude with a person, and they ask you, hey, what's going on? Oh, nothing. No, I'm good. I'm all good. That's being passive aggressive. You're being passive on the real problem, but you're being aggressive in how you expressing it. Let's get in the middle, become assertive, and let's speak. Let's talk about, let's use our intellect. We are God's creations, and we are his greatest creation. We have an intellect that God has given us himself. So let's utilize it. Another one maybe is being cynical and negative. Let's kind of be more realistic, and let's be more positive. If you find yourself being a negative toned person, I want you to know that you don't have to accept that. You don't have to accept that as your life. You can turn that around to more positivity. Remember, we were all born in sin and shapen in iniquity. So we find that some of the things that have shaped us according to the experiences that we've had, we'll find that many times our attitude has been developed in that way. We'll find that our responses have been developed in that way. But it is time for us to take charge over our life. Be very intentional about what I say, what I do, and how I allow myself to feel. I don't want to be negative anymore. I don't want to be pessimistic anymore. I don't want to live on the dark side anymore. So I'm going to make some decisions in my life to be more positive, and then search out what I can do. What can I say? What can I do every morning? What affirmations can I speak to place myself in that more positive space? Also, sometimes we can't hear feedback. And if we identify that about ourselves, if we identify that behavior, that sometimes I can't hear or accept feedback, then guess what? I need to put myself in safety, turn that red flag into a green flag, and start being more receptive to feedback. Sometimes no one's opinions matter but our own. But one of the things we want to do is turn that thing around. So I want to say to you, are there any red flags that you've noticed today that you know that you need to work to turn into green flags? Please go ahead, unmute your phone and share.
For me, definitely taking care of myself. Making sure that I eat like I'm supposed to eat, or the way I can eat. Because sometimes if my tiredness exceed my hungriness, then it wins.
Okay.
So before I get to that place where I'm just overexerted, to make sure I have eaten.
Okay.
And eating prior to whatever's going on or whatever I have to face through the day would help with the nutrients in my body that would kind of pipe down that overtiredness.
Yes.
So learning those things, you think you're 57 years old, you would know some of those things already, but it's just that sometimes I do eat, sometimes I don't eat a lot. I eat every day, but I just sometimes it's either a lot or it's not enough. So just learning how to take care of myself in that way. Also isolation.
Okay.
I have been guilty of that, of isolating myself. Feeling like I was actually doing a good deed. But realizing also that if I don't have a middle ground, then isolation can overtake me.
Wow.
It can overtake me. So I kind of found myself in a lot of these areas, too much time on my hand.
Yes.
So it's kind of like it's like I can find myself in a lot of these areas, if I got too much time on my hand. That if I don't have enough time,
yeah.
It's kind of like learning how to adjust, learning how to like with the not putting too much on my plate at one time.
Okay.
Not overwhelming myself, because that brings on a whole lot of other stuff also. So kind of just learning how to identify what it is that I'm feeling at that particular time, and then learning what to do. And even like you always say, being proactive.
Yes.
I get overwhelmed. I know if I take on this, and this, I know what it can do. So learning, you know what? I can't do that today. I can't have this phone call and try to counsel you on today. Making not only am I okay physically, but okay emotionally.
Yes.
Also, so like I said, I found myself in at least those three areas that could be red flags. Isolation, I start now more or less you know, getting with people, talking to more people, being when I say open, but when I say open, I mean just being able to call somebody outside my normal circle. So being able to take care of myself, sure that I do eat.
Okay, I'm back.
Making sure that I do eat when I'm supposed to eat, and not waiting to the last minute to eat. When now I'm tired, and now that I'm tired, I don't even want no. I just want to lay down, go sleep or whatever, or rest or whatever. So being proactive in that situation, also. So those are the things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's such a great identification because, if we don't recognize what these red flags are, we'll continue just to walk over the cliff. I was talking to a young lady on yesterday, and she was telling me how she had went up to Mount Baldy, and they have signs all the way up. They have signs, all by the campsites. They have signs everywhere posted saying, don't start any fires, no fires. We're in a drought, no fires. And when they got to the campsite where they were going to be, they noticed that the campers next to them, they had started a fire. They had started a little cookout. They was barbecuing. They had another fire going. They had a pot of beans going, and the fire department came out and was like, they shut them down and made them leave. They shut them down and they told them, didn't you read the signs coming up? The man told him, he said, it was the fire chief that told him, he said, we are in a drought. He said, our people are in other fires. They're positioned at other fires, trying to put those fires out. He said, if there's a fire that starts here, there's no way that fire can be put out. There's no way. We don't even have the manpower to put that fire out. So he said, if you do this again, they took their license plate, took a picture, put it in their system. So you do it again, you'll be fined $10,000 and your car will be seized from the mountain. So I want us to realize that as I was thinking about that, here it is, as they were coming up this mountain, there were signs posted everywhere, but sometimes we're so focused on what we're doing, where we're going, what we want to do, that we're not reading the signs. And most of us, we're mature enough, knowledgeable enough, and have been experiential enough that we know ourselves a little bit. We don't know everything about ourselves, but some things we've identified that this don't tick. And this don't connect, and that don't do good with that. But we'll go anywhere. We'll disregard all the flags, and we'll get up to the top of the mountain and do the same dangerous behavior. we must remember that the consequences, just like with the man who could seize your car, charge you a $10,000 fine, the consequences, they get worse and worse and worse. So they got to pass that time. They said, I know you saw the signs, but we're going to give you a pass. But if you do it again, next time, what? The consequences are going to increase. This is why we have to learn to identify our red flags, so that when we see things occurring, we know when it's time to implement a change, implement an intervention, implement a change of mind, step into play and say, okay, this is a red flag for me. What do I need to do to put myself in safety? So that was excellent. So if eating, and beware, because when we don't rightfully eat, we don't feed our body what it needs to nourish itself. So that means it's eating off itself. It's eating on a deficiency. So therefore, our mood is affected. Therefore, our thinking is affected, which affects our attitude, which affects our vision and our perception in life. So it would behoove us to make sure that our body is fed, that our needs are taken care of. You know, there are some things where some people where you just don't connect. You don't connect, but yet we still try to bring them into our personal space or be a part of their personal space. We have to acknowledge, maybe it's time for me to reposition that person. You know, I don't have to cut them out my life, possibly. Maybe I can reposition them into our outer limits, into a public place, because that person is a red flag. Whenever that person comes around, I use. Every time that person comes around, I flare up in my anger. Every time that person comes around, I get into an argument. I get into a fight. Whatever it is, we have to acknowledge our red flags. Brother Danny, have you acknowledged any red flag that you need to be aware of so that you can bring yourself back into safety? I know you had some phone problems and you're going in and out, but if you can acknowledge maybe some of your own personal red flags and share, it'd be appreciated. Go right ahead. All right, I guess Brother Danny's not available to share right now. So I'm gonna read a few points. I want us to realize that red flags are messages of distress. When we see these red flags, we need to say, caution, caution, danger, danger. You know, we need to realize, hey, let's not just ignore it. I have a young lady that I know who, before she married this gentleman, he would tell her, you know, when they were first dating, it was all beautiful. Everything was lovely. There wasn't a care in the world or a problem in the world. But as they began to get closer, she began to notice that he would talk about her pants being too tight, or how she talked to this guy longer than she should have, or how she did this, that, and the other. All those were danger signs. What is it that causes us to ignore those signs of danger, those signs of distress? There's something going on. What makes us ignore it and not address it? We have to realize and deal with that thing. Is it an emotional tie? Is it because I don't want to be in conflict with this person? Is it I'm not confrontive enough? Whatever it is, we need to deal with those things so that we can deal with the barriers that keep me from being safe. So red flags are messages of distress. Also, remember budding, B-U-D, building up to danger. Sometimes we got some unresolved emotional issues that we haven't dealt with. And those things are just budding inside of us. They're just building up. And one day, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now, that thing is going to have an effect, a negative effect on your life, whether you're going to explode on somebody, whether you're going to start disliking certain people, whether now the things that you see is going to be based on what you went through, whatever it is. Sometimes we need to identify, we need a little help. We need a little therapy. We need a little life coaching. We need some assistance that's beyond me, myself, and I. And we have to remember that. And it's okay. Another thing that we want to do is remember that getting help from others, just like I said, it's essential when we're trying to identify and control our danger zones, our red flags, so that we can put ourselves back in safety. Get with someone that you trust. Get with a confidant, a therapist, a life coach, your pastor, somebody, and kind of let them know what's going on with me, what's going on with you, and just kind of maybe bounce some things off of them. It's okay to use people as sounding boards as long as they know you. As long as they know you, not just by name, but that they know kind of the inner workings of you, are willing to get to know the inner workings of you. Sometimes if you don't have anyone in your life, I want to encourage you, use your medical cards, get you some therapy. A therapist is a person that's non-judgmental, who sits in a place of non-judgment to look into your life and to kind of give you some suggestions on maybe how to implement certain thinking, how to stretch certain thinking, how to avoid certain thinking, that affects our feeling self, that affects our doing self. So it all works together. Our thinking, our feeling, and our doing, everything works together. Also, we want to listen to the whispers before they become screams. What happens sometimes, we have that still soft voice, and you guys know who that still soft voice is. We have that still soft voice that's working inside of us, that's speaking, don't do this, don't go there. I was sharing with someone about, everyone has some sort of conscious, right? Some sort of conscious based on what they've been taught, based on their experiences in life. If being cruel to animals is something that you've been taught to do, then you may not have a conscience to it. But when we talk about the Holy Spirit is going to lead us into righteousness according to who the Holy Spirit is, according to who he is, not according to you. This is why sometimes, because our consciousness comes from our own moral set. It comes from our own set of values. But the Holy Spirit, when the Holy Spirit speaks to us, sometimes we may not even know that that's and we just kind of move in that way. But something on inside of you starts saying, hey, danger. That still soft voice start guiding you away and guiding you away. It's up to us to listen to that still soft voice. So what happens is, what we need to do is realize that there's some little things, little voices, there's some little moves, some little utterances, some little disturbances that let us know this is a red flag. But if we continue to press in that direction, those little voices are going to become screams. Some of it is your emotional self. Your emotional self is saying, I need attention. I need help. I'm hurting. I'm this, I'm that. And we're not giving any attention. And after a while, you never know, you're cutting yourself. After a while, you're cussing people out and don't even know why. After a while, you find yourself isolated, don't want to talk to nobody, don't even have the energy to help or to live this life. So we want to be mindful that we listen while these things are whispering to us before they become the screams of negative behavior. We have to be mindful. Listen for those unhealed hurts. There's some hurts that have not been healed, and they've been saying, hey, I need your attention. I need some of that healing balm. But we're so busy working. We're so busy trying to find a lover. We're so busy doing, just living our regular life, that we're not listening to the unresolved issues, the unhealed hurts. We're not listening to those things that are saying, hey, I need help. Because as you grow, I'm growing in my pain. I'm growing in my cantankerousness. I'm growing in ways that is unhealthy. So we also want to recognize that as danger increases, so does acting out rather than talking. So if we continue to disregard our red flags, what's going to happen? We're going to continue in our negative behavior. Rather than sitting down, talking it out, processing, thinking what I need to do, and be intentional about doing what I need to do and not doing what I don't need to do, What happens is if we keep on driving in the direction and ignoring those red flags, we're going to be on top of Mount Baldy with a fire in a drought with trees all around us ready to flow up with nobody to come and put us out, nobody to come and save us from our consequences. Also, we realize that we have to notice when we're spiraling, when life is getting too thick, when situations, you may be like Job, where it's just one after another, and you find yourself, I was able to handle that first one, but that second messenger came, it got a little heavy. That third messenger came, it got a little heavy. But by the time that fourth messenger came, I lost it. So you have to notice when you're spiraling down, when you're spiraling in your out of control state, because when we're out of control, all those negative, unhealthy behaviors are going to be in control. So I want to ask you today, what is it that you need to do? First, identify your red flags. And Ms. Bianca, you identified several. Thank you so much. And now commit to what are some of the things that you're going to do to put yourself in safety when you recognize that red flag. What is a green flag that you're going to put in place so that that red flag doesn't bring you into the same continual consequences? I'm going to ask you to unmute your phone and share. No thoughts? Well, I'm going to give some ideas. Maybe you can write out a safety plan. You know, sometimes we don't necessarily remember what we need to do until the situation is passed and it didn't end good. So maybe you can write a safety plan. If you've acknowledged that isolating or not eating, or if you've acknowledged being around certain people are red flags for you, then won't you go ahead and get you a safety plan in place, identifying those red flags. If you keep a personal journal, put it in your personal journal that this doesn't work for me. And go ahead and put a green flag. What should I do? Because lots of times when we're faced with these things, lots of times we don't necessarily think or know right off the bat what to do. So let's go ahead and write it, because that helps create a memory of what you wrote, of what you need to do. Also, we can write a personal story of bravery, how you faced your red flag and won in the past, because that'll also create a memory of your opposition with a red flag and you overcoming it. So it may sound a little exaggerated in its form, but it may be needful for you to commit to acknowledging your red flags rather than just blundering right past it and right into the danger zone. This can help us to identify that there are some things that I need to look at, the flags of danger, and respect the flag and say, you know what? I'm going to change my direction. I'm going to change my course. Also, I can write a how to help me guide, because maybe how to help myself is different than maybe a self-help book or even your confidant's way. But maybe write how can I help me get through this? How am I going to overcome anger? How am I going to overcome isolation? And I'm going to read a few more of the red flags just so that you can kind of be thinking maybe some more. Maybe you haven't acknowledged. Maybe you haven't acknowledged what your red flags are. So maybe this can trigger some ideas. Isolation can be a red flag. Also, not taking care of your body, as we said, fighting with people, too much free time, your destructive behavior, feel stuck, lying, negative feelings acted out, canceling treatment sessions, sessions that help you and build you. You stop taking your prescribed medication, or you become too passive. Oh, why bother? Whatever, or you become cynical or negative, or maybe you stop fighting your PTS systems. You start disassociating and cutting people out your life rather than trying to connect and continue in that connectivity of community. Not learning new coping skills. That's a big one. We have to be forever abounding. That means we must continue to learn what's good for me in order to survive this. Don't just think that may be one little idea or one thing. I've had clients over the years that say, hey, I never knew that. That's what's going to make the difference in my life. That one thing is going to make the difference in my life, when really you need more than one thing. Because when we grow past that one thing, maybe it was all powerful for you in that stage of your life. But once you outgrow that, then what? So you want to continue to grow in coping skills. You know, if JLC helps you, that's great. Now, what else? Maybe studying my word, maybe praying, maybe getting out with the saints, maybe going out and visiting family, maybe taking a class, maybe going on a nature walk, exercising, going to see, walking in different parks, going to see the mountains, whatever your coping skills are. And maybe we'll even do a class on coping skills alone, because we have to learn how to cope through any situation. If somebody's staring at you, if they're talking about you, if you're triggered to use drugs and or alcohol, if you're triggered to anger, if you're triggered to run, whatever it is, we have to have our coping mechanisms right there in place, ready to execute and overcome that moment. Also, becoming physically sick can sometimes be a red flag to us, because if we stay sick too long, sometimes we have found that within that, we stay away from what's healthy for us. So one thing we want to do is live well, take your vitamins, be proactive in your health, take your medicine, go to your doctors, your scheduled doctor's appointments regularly, get your routine physicals, not just your body, but even your dental. A lot of people die 10 years earlier just from bad oral hygiene. Why is that? Because there's so much bacteria in our mouth. Comes from our teeth, the food that we eat. So we need to take care of that. And you may say, well, I am afraid. Well, let's deal with that fear. Let's deal with that fear. Remember, we can't allow feelings to live our life for us. We have to have some coping skills to overcome that moment and go into healthy behavior. Also, spending time with people who are unhealthy for us. Getting to the point where we can't hear feedback, where we're angry, we're blocking positive feedback. Also, too much responsibility. You know, sometimes we get into that healthier place, we always want to help everybody. Too much responsibility is overwhelming sometimes. And if you find yourself one of those people that crush under certain amounts of pressure, find out what's your limit. Everyone has a limit. I can't take on the problems of the world. You saw Obama? When Obama went into office, he had a nice black hair, head of hair, you know, shaved down low, looking nice. By the time he came out of office and taking on the weight of the United States, all his nice little well-manicured hair was silver. So we want to realize we can't take on the weight of the world. So let's identify how much of the weight we can take in our life. Also, think people are trying to make me look bad or feel bad. Sometimes we do. We project our thoughts and our feelings of what someone else thinks, and we respond to it. One thing I learned a long time ago, I am not responsible for what another person thinks or feels about me. Because guess what? I have no way of knowing unless they tell me. Now, I can stay in my head and I can kind of think that they're doing this or saying this about me or feeling this way about me. But really, what does that have to do with me? Let's continue to live our life in positivity rather than responding on what we think about someone. When we find ourselves that we stop caring, we find ourselves that we stop trying. So when we get to that place where we just saying, screw it. They call it the efforts. When we get to that place, we just say, forget about it. I want you to understand that's the time that I need to throw myself into positivity. I need to throw myself into a green flag. Get some help, go somewhere so that you can get around that positivity that gives you the motivation to keep trying, keep pushing. Being arrogant, you know, absent from where you need to be. All of those can be red flags. Red flags. If you're trying to overcome anger, listening to certain angry music could be a red flag. You know, if you're trying to overcome maybe overeating, you know, going to a buffet could be a red flag. Let's recognize the red flags. So we want to do that. And we can also let's get a safe coping sleep. You know, let's build, get on that internet, get on your cell phones and start Googling coping skills. Hey Siri, whoever you go to, you know, I don't want anything, Siri. So, you know, go on your phones and get on these smartphones. Let them work for you. Don't just read the trending news and just see the funny reels. Let it work for you. Any others? Have you identified any of your unhealthy behaviors, those red flags that take you into those unhealthy behaviors that you need to turn around and apply a green flag? Have you noticed any? If so, please go ahead and share and let me know, how are you going to commit to handling that red flag?
I think you had mentioned something about worried about what people say about you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, that used to be something that I dealt with
Mm-hmm.
so much, so long. I carried it for years. Um, Probably streaming from, growing up and you know, coming out the household that I came out of, and being put down and
Mm-hmm.
criticized and never was seen any good in. Um, that's probably where it streamed from. And boy, that thing there used to be something that would have me crying in my bed, or
Okay.
what I thought the people thought about me, or what they might even been saying about me or thinking about me. That was really a hard thing for me because I love people, and when you really haven't had that kind of like family, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of link up with people, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because you lack that family love, that love, that sense of acceptance. And so you kind of link up with people, and then to hear that they may think this or may feel this or
It's
maybe,
crushing. Yeah.
yeah, maybe talking about you, it's like it really crushes you. And so I remember for years, and I do be years, that would be something. I mean, I would cry and I wonder why, and it'd be so hurtful to even know that somebody even thought something like that about me. Oh, well, today, going through that process and really realizing that I really can't control